Hello, friends. The Georgian arm wrestlers are famous for their monstrous strength and muscularity and their humongous size all across the arm wrestling fraternity. But it was not the case even that long back. By that long back, I mean before 6 or 7 years. Georgians had always excelled in this sport, but they initially only concentrated on the technicalities of arm wrestling and not on building massive physical attributes. They focused more on table time, table practice, and practicing the finer points of the sport. But since 2018, things changed completely after Levan Saginashvilli became the world number two officially in the rankings in the right arm super heavyweight category of arm wrestling, just next to Denis Siplenkov, who ruled the roost during that time. And this happened when Levan won the open category in the top 8 tournament arranged by Igor Mazurenko. That was the go-to tournament of that time. Then, that time around, Mazurenko used to be the top man, like today it is Engin, in organizing super match format events. And he is credited to be the person behind the success of the super match format tournaments, which are so popular today. Coming back to the topic, Levan Saginashvili was supposed to face Denis Siplenkov in a much publicized, much hyped, and eagerly anticipated super match in 2019 in the same top 8 tournament to decide who the real number one is in the super heavyweight or open category. We all know that Dennis got ill after the D1 match in 2018 and the Levan versus Dennis match never took place. Instead, Levan faced Vitaly Lalatin, a much thinner version of Vitaly, that is, who happened to be mentored by the unwell Denis Siplenkov for that very match. From 2018 onwards, Georgian arm wrestlers had a sea change in their approach to preparation for the matches in arm wrestling. From just table practice and normal workouts, they started focusing more on building massive arm wrestling related strength and muscles in the gym. The first mass monster we all know was Levan, who till 2017 was never that huge. He was always naturally big, but was around in the 125 to 140 kilo bracket. From 2018 onwards, Levan became the Levan we know today. And following his example, we saw the advent of mass monsters like Genadi, Rivaz Lutidze, Irakli, and many others to the recent Bacho Saginashvili, who at just 18 years of age has built monstrous biceps and forearms and lifts extreme heavy weights. The Georgians stunned us by lifting absurd amounts of weights in their bicep curls, back pressure, pronation lifts, etc. Now, how did this sudden change come about from around 2017? Well, the man who inspired them to focus on building huge arm wrestling muscles was none other than the legend Denis Siplenkov, who had become iconic with his massive arm wrestling specific lifts and his monster like muscularity and size. Levan was inspired by Dennis himself, and then the rest followed. So we can say that Denis Suplankov was the person who inspired the Georgians to become the mass monsters and super strong athletes that they are today. And now, coming to the upcoming East versus West 15 tournament scheduled for November 2nd. Yesterday, there was this live podcast by Engin Terzi, which also featured Genadi Kvikvinia and Michael Todd. Genadi said he feels that his flop press might be one of the best in the world and maybe just next to Jerry Caderet. And to be fair to him, Genadi has actually proven that his flop press is devastating. For example, in the Devon match recently, last year, in the past against Tim Brosnan, and in many other past matches, even in a match as early as in 2017, when Levan was quite a huge athlete. Levan lost that match and probably his last match to none other than a Genadi Kvikvinia flop press. And Genadi had also defeated his to-be opponent Michael Todd previously in the East versus West 2 held in February 2022 using the same flop press against Todd's King's move. Genadi subsequently also said something about his current shape in that podcast. He said he is just around 80 to 85% of his peak shape. Is Genadi already getting an excuse ready for the Michael Todd match just in case he loses? Again, in the same breath, he also said that Michael Todd had no chance on earth to beat him. The reason Genadi provided for this was that Michael supposedly had a very hard time to beat Kamil Jablonski in the recently concluded East versus West 14, which also happens to be the last match of Michael Todd. I guess Genadi does not consider Jablonski to be much of an opponent. So you see, Genadi is kind of confusing us with contradicting statements. On one side, he says he's not fully ready, and again, he says that it is an easy day out for him as far as the Michael Todd match is considered. In that very podcast, Michael Todd profusely thanked Devon Larratt for showing faith in him when others were doubting Michael after his return post his major bicep surgery. Devon had recently said Michael had a very good chance of beating even Levan Saginashvilli by the year end. Yes, you heard that right. Michael Todd feels he will be more or less ready for Levan by the end of December. Michael will be pulling Hermes Gasparini if he manages to beat Genadi. I'm not sure on which card this event is scheduled to take place, the Todd versus Gasparini match. If he manages to overcome Gasparini, he will finally meet the winner of the Levan versus Jerry Caderet match in the King of the Table 13 to be held on December 14th. So a match with Levan is not a possibility at least in December this year. Maybe in the middle of January 2025. That actually gives Todd more time to prepare for that match, provided he can go through Genadi first and then Hermes and Levan manages to beat Jerry, which should not be a problem for Levan. Michael is actually sure of beating both Genadi and subsequently Hermes, and then he will be ready to face Levan, assuming Levan beats Jerry. Though this seems kind of far-fetched and impossible, but who knows? Anything might happen. Michael might end up beating Levan, maybe. Engin also went on to say he is extremely excited about the East versus West 15 card, and he thinks this is one of the best arm wrestling tournaments ever to take place. And the Michael versus Genadi match, that was his favorite. So, though not a title match or the main event, this match is creating a huge hype and immense viewer interest in the arm wrestling world already. That is all for now, friends. Thank you so much for watching. See you all soon in the next video. Please subscribe.